we will take a look at this budget from an expert's point of view, and it is our wonderful honor to have a wonderful guest with us today. Let's introduce Anthony Ang, who is the Treasurer of Malaysian Financial Planning Council, the MFPC. So as a treasurer, this guy deals a lot with money. So it is awesome to have you in the studio. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're no stranger to the show, obviously, when it comes to budget and all that. You're always here talking to us, giving insights, so on and so forth. So we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you.
Now, when it comes to the budget, right, please tell us your POVs. Were you excited?
I think we look at the feedback from the public. I think everyone is very excited and everybody feel positive. So after 2 years of COVID and political a little bit unstable, and now we're back on track. I think we have Malaysia Banani. And then this budget, I look at it, is more towards the well-being of public and also businesses. So I think this will be very good for us moving forward. So I'm more interested in looking at the 40 billion allocation for the loan for this micro and SME. I would like to see how they leverage on this loan. Hopefully, moving forward, they can restore and expand their business and encourage more so-called productivity. At the same time, increase our so-called our employment rate. And I think our rakyat will be much happier to have jobs, and then moving forward to be back on track and to reduce all the financial burdens that they have. Secondly, I also look at the 97 billion of infrastructure rebuilding, and also so-called for the rural expansion and also development. At the same time, to close now the poverty rate between the city and the so-called rural area. I think it's a good move. So by this budget moving forward to another 3 to 5 years, hopefully the rural area will be more expand and be more ready to welcome foreign direct investment into Malaysia or any other expansion in this area. And I believe it is a very good positive move at this moment.
Very briefly, can you just explain to us, when it comes to the allocation of infrastructure and the rural communities, so on and so forth, actually, could you actually tell all the people who are watching at home, why is it actually very important to expand these areas?
I think for Malaysia, I think we are talking about, we still have M40 and B40. These two group of people that we are much more focusing on. I think for the rural area, it's much more on B40. So this B40, so far, I think from the development, always we talk about they've been lagging back compared with the cities. So in this case, we want to talk about high-income nation. We want to talk about a better so-called social safety net. And we want to talk about a better living environment for our Malaysian. I believe this time, I think rural area, we must take care. And I think we have a lot of experts and we have a lot of so-called human capital that available in this area that can bring productivity to our nation. I think these are the group that we are untapped. Much more now we are focusing on more big cities and big industrial area. I think the kampung people, they are productive as well.
Exactly.
So we need to so-called instill their skill and knowledge to contribute back and build Malaysia back on track together.
Hopefully we don't hear cases of kids going up on the tree to get internet connection.
Yes.
Hopefully no more of that.
Yeah.
When we're talking about B40s and also M40s, of course, we can also talk about the SMEs. Just now you talk about how we are focusing a lot on the SMEs this year with this year's revised budget. I wonder, is the current climate for the SMEs, is it that bad that so much is being done to help them out this time around?
I believe first, SME is a so-called, I should say, a bridge between the multi-international and public listed company. And we have a SME and we have a small micro businesses. So I believe the SME will be the first and the fastest way to grow because they have the potential. And then secondly, they also immediately they can absorb most of our human capital to work in this group, our so-called industry, whereby they can immediately offer a job as compared with the rest. I think they are the first that drive our businesses in Malaysia.
Right. Just now, Nabil, before we went on air, I was talking to Sir right here, and he was talking about, brother, did you realize that every single year, the government allocates more and more for the budget? So right now, obviously, being the largest in history of Malaysia. So we're talking about a multiplier effect in hopes that, of course, we'll get a positive growth, right? So this time around, do you think it's going to be it?
So I look at it is, of course, we talk about population growth.
Correct.
Our country is going to to moving forward to be an advanced country. Definitely budget will be increased. But then yet we talk about the living cost is increasing. We're talking about a lot of rakyat still suffering at the moment because they might not be able to get a job or their income is lower, below 2005. That's how our government now should so-called, at the moment we talk about tax, yearly tax budget is for yearly focusing. And I should say all the budget allocation for the year is, I can say, is more towards short-term measurement. But long-term, how to go about it. So I look at it, the government is kind enough to assist rakyat that really need some income, so-called to maintain their lifestyle. But in the moment, I think government also should think about how are we going to increase the financial literacy of fellow Malaysian. I give you 1,000, how are you going to spend it? If not, next year I give you another 1,005. They might not be enough again. So I think while we solve the shortage or so-called the short-term issue, I think we need to plan for medium to long term. How they can so-called really enjoy or so-called really leverage on the funding that government provide to them. At the same time, maximize the value of the money that government has been allocated for them for their well-being.
That's a very realistic approach, Nabil. Because however much money I give you, if one does not know how to use it wisely, it will never be enough.
That's true. I mean, and if we're talking about awareness, I wonder, Brandon, because there's a focus on the green initiatives as well, and that is among the SMEs. And I wonder if there's enough awareness for these SMEs to take advantage of this incentive.
I think now we're moving forward, we talk about green tech. I think this is the in thing at this moment. I think we talk about after COVID-19, people talk about healthcare, people talk about sustainability, people talk about environmental friendly, people talk about how moving forward we can live more healthier and to prevent all these diseases to happen and so-called talk about things that can so-called take care of our environment. So I think this green technology incentive, I think is good. I think we should leverage on it and expand our so-called our focus on this green tech moving forward. And it is high demand throughout the world, I believe so.
Yeah, everybody's more comfortable in that way because when it comes to green tech, everything is digitalized.
Yeah.
But of course, you got to be careful as well when everything is digitalized. And now, obviously, when we talk about this budget, right, obviously nobody will be happy throughout the whole budget, not 100%. But of course, this time around, we're getting positive feedback and all that. At least I would say about 70% of them are actually very excited for this year's budget because apparently there's this slogan that's been going around: tax the rich, help the poor. So when it comes to this approach by the unity government, do you think it's a fair approach?
Okay, in my opinion, every country imposes tax.
Yeah.
Not only Malaysia. Throughout the world, every country imposes tax. Tax, we don't take it as a punishment. Tax is not a punishment. Tax is whereby a government revenue, at the end, they receive it and they reuse it to develop our country. And it benefited us back again. So, always I would like to joke with my friends. You are lucky that you are capable to pay tax. It means what? You have income. You have so-called reasonable income to be taxed. If you tell me you're not paying tax, means that you're out of a job or you don't have income at all.
Yeah.
So to me, I think we should pay a reasonable tax. Definitely government has allocated a lot of relief, rebate and also exemption.
Yeah.
So we should utilize on that portion, so-called we draft out our tax planning to pay a reasonable tax. And government using this tax is to redevelop our country. I think it's very important. Rather than we borrow money and we redevelop, I think it's rather than we have internal cash flow system that can, I gain it, I pay tax, then tax put it back again to the economic system, and we benefit from our infrastructure, for other kind of development that the country give it to us and provide us a good place for us to do our businesses. I think that's what we need to see from a positive side.
Yeah, that's very well explained.
Yeah, and it's great to see that the government is doing that, taking the tax and then kind of reinvesting it to us in terms of infrastructure and all that. But I wonder, as a rakyat, as myself, as a local consumer, how can I contribute to the local economy, Anthony?
I think we need to really upskill ourselves. Okay, by all means now, we also hear that a lot of industry, they couldn't get enough workers,
Right.
local workers. But then, the other side, they say, Malaysian cannot get a job. So I think there must be a mismatch there. So I think I would rather advise the Malaysian that we should say that, of course, we want high income, we want high salary. But looking at our situation now, I think whole Malaysia should be unite together, help each other. Maybe minimum salary of 1,500 above 1,008, I should take it first. Why? You need a place to practice and learn up your skill. By 2-3 years down the road, when our economy is regained back on track, I think there's a time you can bargain for a better salary. I believe during 2-3 years down the road, the company already sustainable and they already expand their business, they have their revenue, why not? You are my 3 years, 5 years employee, why not I reward you slightly better because we've been through these difficulties together and now I'm making money. I believe all the bosses are happy to pay you. I believe so. So I think now we don't choose too much on work. As long as we have reasonable salary, I think we should work hand in hand as an employer and employee to build our own businesses, contribute to the national growth. At the end, everybody enjoy.
Awesome.
The fruits, of
Mr. Anthony, you got 2 more space in your company now.
Because I'm willing to
kill me.
I'm willing to upskill, Anthony. Yeah. Other than hosting, maybe we can learn something about money and tax.
Yeah. But of course, before we let you go, your own words, what can we take away from this revised budget? And of course, the advice you would like to give out to all those who are watching at home.
Okay, in my opinion, I say is that we've been through diseases, we've been through a little bit of uncertainty, but now we can see our future is slowly getting brighter. I think this tax is now taking care of all levels of rakyat Malaysia, but of course, as you say, maybe a minimum or minor sector that not really benefit from it, but I think it's still fine. 80-20 rule, majority 80% enjoy, I think is good policy, and we should really make use of this allocation wisely, and then we really maximize our own output, learn out more skill. I think so-called we always must ask, after government give all these incentives to us, what can we contribute back to our country? I think now we must think that question is, how are we going to serve our country in our own way to rebuild, unite together and rebuild our economy and moving forwards to our glorious time in those days where we are one of the tigers in Southeast Asia.
And you're positive
I'm looking forward. We be a lion at the end.
Yeah,
definitely.
and you're positive that we can reach
I
that
have
goal.
positive outlook on this.
Awesome.
Yes.
I feel like taking the Jalur Gemilang out and waving it right now in the studio. Thank you so much, Anthony, for your time.
Thank you very much.
That's been very insightful and well explained as well. We're glad to have you in the studio.
Sure.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Anthony, for being here.